My name's Kate, and last year I had a crazy accident with a stag that left me on the forest floor with my neck cut open and then lying in hospital in a coma. And unfortunately, after that, there was some pretty unpleasant bits of things written in the newspapers about me that left me quite upset. And I was very fortunate that I was able to use kindness and understanding to talk to the newspapers, help them understand how I felt, connect with them, and I think help make some change come about. And then that went even further. I ended up joining the Editor's Code of Practice Committee, which means a few times a year I sit with a few other members of the public and mainly editors from national and regional local newspapers and review the Editor's Code of Practice. I was also fortunate that sitting alongside regional editor for Trinity Mirror Group, I was given an open invitation to come and visit some of their newspapers, which surprised me because I didn't know how many newspapers they actually owned. So today I'm going to have hopefully a wonderful day at the Manchester Evening News. Here we go, let's go and see what goes on inside here. Okay.
Mama. That's good, isn't it? That is good, isn't it?
I only know Irish tunes.
Yeah.
No.
Hey,
I've got to get
yeah.
You've got to find your fingers.
I'm not going to name that tune. No.
Now, that takes a bit of practice because, as you said, the keys are very thin compared with a normal keyboard.
Yeah. But it's
now
just...
I'm hooked. I'll name that tune in 42.
Oh right, so yeah, this is the newsroom, which literally stretches as far as the eye can see. Probably one of the longer newsrooms that you'll come across, and the journalists here are working on all our titles. So you're talking about the first rows that you see here are our weekly titles that are in Cheshire and Lancashire, so Macclesfield Express and the Accrington Observer and the Rossendale Free Press are the first ones, and then we've got our weekly teams that serve titles within Greater Manchester, places like Salford, Stockport, Oldham, Rochdale, and then the next row are the journalists who work for the Manchester Evening News, and you also have our digital teams there as well, and then you've got production journalists, sport journalists, and at the far end we have our data unit who do our data stories across websites across Trinity Mirror. So this is a room chock full of journalists
here. Make you feel uncomfortable.
So what we do is we want to know what people read, because why would we write something that people don't want to read? So we need to see what they're browsing at, which way they're entering the page, and what they're enjoying. We see that to engage time. Then that starts the conversation internally here, where we say, they like this, should we do more of it? How else can we present it? What else can we do? And they didn't like this, so do we scale down on this? So more than ever, we know, or think we know, what the audience wants, and it's how we chase it up from there. We then plug in the social conversation and see how they're reacting to things, not just by browsing, but on a more moral level, and we want to understand that and sort of work along with them collaboratively, because ultimately a journalist's job is to write a great story which people want to read and enjoy and get something from. And if people can inform that process, then that's something, why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah, exactly. So would you say that, like, more than ever, the content of a newspaper is not controlled by the readers, but is more of a partnership between the readers and the newspapers?
Yeah, definitely. Readers signpost what we should be doing. They set the roads that we should be going on because we know what they're interested in. And, well, not solely just following trends that readers set. Obviously, a newspaper has to take steps and be bold and introduce the readers to new things. If we know what people like, why wouldn't we help them to find things that they're like? We don't just bring news. We do information, we do things to make their life better. We want them to be proud of their city. If there's something happening in a restaurant that they may want to go to, is it news? That's debatable, but it's important to them. And if the road's blocked, is it news? Sort of, but can we tell them how to get home? There's a question of, what are you doing this week? Do you want to do all these things? Well, and here's how to get the most out of that thing, and here's how to get the most out of that thing. And then we get that into social, and then it comes back and says, but you've forgotten this thing, M.E.N. So we say, actually, let's redo that.
Yeah.
And the process starts again, it's cyclical. In effect, the news is an evolution. It doesn't stop because the reader changes, and we have to keep putting what the reader wants in order for us to remain relevant and helpful, and to keep the brand going.
So you can see what people are reading, and you adjust the content, balance the content with that, but then through social, people comment to you directly.
That's correct.
And then there's actually a direct dialogue between you and the readers, and then that itself can then change the content.
Yeah.
Not only like the news stories, but even actually change a story that's been written.
That's correct.
Change how a headline is, or change some of the content, add some things in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is really fascinating that it's some people sat in a room writing some stuff that's going to be published and make people angry. It really seems...
We hope.
No, but that's what I imagined it was. It really seems like a partnership between press and public.
I'd like to think so, ultimately. The public read our websites, buy our newspapers. Why would we want to annoy a customer? If you went to a corner shop and you had a Twix thrown at you, you probably wouldn't want to go in again.
No.
So we shouldn't be really throwing the Twix.
No. And we'll watch out for those Twixes. Thanks.
No problem.
You know what? I used to deliver the Express, the Express newspaper in Moston, Crumpsall, and Langley. So I think me and my ex-partner delivered like 1,700 newspapers a week.
That's more than what they sell a week, man.
Probably. And we used to do the yellow pages in M7.
What do you see in the editor's chair? He's not here.
Right, hold the front page. We're going to change it all. No, it's all wonderful. It's actually a good view from here. I finished my day at the Manchester Evening News and I had a wonderful time and met some lovely people who shared lots of insights about how they go about bringing us the news. And now I've just driven up the hills a little way, up into Moorside, in Oldham, to, I guess, one of my old stomping grounds. This is where I spent a lot of my school holidays when I was very young. My uncle was the groundsman here at this cricket club. We used to come here a lot, and I've hardly ever been back, and I think I might be too scared to get out of the car. I'm sat next to the bowling green. Right in front of me is where my uncle's mobile home used to be, where he lived and where I would go as a child and be terrified by his cat and terrified by his dog, which used to chase any children away who dared to come nearby. My day at the Manchester Evening News, it was really inspiring, really opened my eyes a lot. I was able to spend each different hour with a different person. I was asked to sit in on the forward planning meeting, which is how they decide what's going to go on what page for the next day's print. So one big thing that I did learn is that the Manchester Evening News is a digital first newspaper. So the whole focus is on creating digital content, and then from that digital content, which is occurring throughout the day, using that to pull together what actually goes into print. But the incredible thing about digital, apart from the accessibility and the updatability, seems to be the huge amount of data, and they appear to be very sophisticated at gathering that data and using data tools to know at every single second what's been read, where someone's come from, what they've read previously, what they go to read next, how long they read things for, whether they're local, whether they're international, and start to build a bit of a profile. They really have a fantastic insight into what people want to read, what people do read, what they don't read. And I guess how that inspired me is that the content that you see digital and then subsequently physical seems to be a collaboration between the reader and the journalists and the editors, because stories that don't work don't go online. I was kind of asking, who's actually in control here? Is it the readers, or is it the editors, or is it the journalists? And it really seems to be co-curated by the public and by the publishers. It was really evident, especially in this digital first environment, that what we read in the papers is based on what we want to read in the paper. It might not necessarily be what we say we want to read, but it's what we end up feasting our eyes on. The second part of the digital that was really interesting is the amount of engagement through social media. So the ability for people who are reading it to directly comment on through Facebook or through Twitter, and to actually start to have that commentary with some of the journalists as they might comment, as they might write things, and then the journalists can start to become part of that discussion. And I think what that does is it starts to break down barriers. So you do start to feel that the news that you're reading and what you're seeing is much more relevant to you. So I think that was really fascinating. It's something that I'm actually really interested in. We might not like what we see in the press, but I think we're as responsible for creating what's in the papers as the people are who create it. Things are far from perfect, but what I met today was a bunch of very dedicated people who believe that they are doing something that has a benefit for society in terms of providing the news, providing the stories, providing the information, giving people that information that they seek. It doesn't mean that things are not sensationalised, things are not done in an inappropriate way. I think they are sometimes, but I think the editor's code seems to be something that they all very aware of, are tested on, and actually seem to be fearful of treading outside the lines of what is generally acceptable. Again, I'm not saying things are perfect, but I generally feel that I'm meeting people who are trying to do the right thing and want to go home at night knowing that they did a good job and are proud of what they've done. So yeah, that was my little investigation today, which was cool, and I also got to show them a lot of my work and what I do, and tell them about my vision of the future being digital embedded within the physical, and about the day that the computers disappear. I let them play with my notebook that plays notes, and it was nice to see them get immersed in a piece of print but have a digital experience. It's so bizarre for me to come back here. It's been a long time. I would run around on the cricket pitch here when I was just a kid. I had no idea what journey I would have gone through, from spending my holidays here to, gosh, all the travelling that I've done and all the changes that I've been through, and from being in the papers like I was from my accident, and then from spending my day at the Evening News today, talking about to some of them where I grew up and how familiar the area is to me. So it is a little bit emotional to come back here and see this place.
I only know Irish tunes.
Yeah.
No.
Hey,
I've got to get.
You've got to find your fingers.
I'm not going to name that tune.
Now,
Yeah.
that takes a bit of practice because, as you said, the keys are very thin compared with a normal keyboard.
Yeah. But it's
now
just...
I'm hooked.
Oh.
A wasted
No.
I'll name that tune in 42.